When we talk about chemical sedimentary rocks, we're mainly discussing limestone simply because it is the most abundant chemical sedimentary rock. Now, limestone is classified as any sedimentary rock that is predominantly composed of calcium carbonate, usually in the form of the minerals calcite or aragonite. Now, limestone can come in many different forms, as we have read above on this page in the lab module. And that's due to the many different environments that calcium carbonate can precipitate and crystallize within. So let's start with a sample that we don't have in our rock and mineral kit, and that's going to be coquina. Coquina is a type of limestone that is literally something you could sit and watch form out on a day at the beach. So as broken seashells wash up shore, they collect, and if there comes a small rainstorm later in the afternoon on the beach, that rainwater, that fresh water, can dissolve a little bit of those seashells and cause the seashells to cement to one another. And that is what creates coquina. So these samples are entirely composed of seashell fragments. There may be some coral fragments mixed in with there. Whatever is the predominant calcitic organism at that particular location at the beach. So this is a really cool sample of a chemical sedimentary rock. Let's look at chalk. Chalk is number 59. This is a type of limestone because it is predominantly composed of calcium carbonate in the form of microscopic shells. So there are microscopic shells of an organism, a type of plankton called coccolithophores. And when these coccolithophores die, they sink to the bottom of the seafloor and they accumulate over time. And they create this very soft but calcium carbonate rock that we call chalk. This is what the White Cliffs of Dover are made of. Now here we have samples 60, 61, 57, 58, and 64. These are all types of limestone. Different varieties. Now 57 and 64, we have oolitic limestone on the left and oolite on the right. Now these are all mostly composed of these little structures, these calcitic structures called ooids. So ooids form off of a beach, off of a shoreline out in that clear tropical water. And as the waves go back and forth, these little circular spherical ooids develop. And you can see that they can get large in size, but they are most notably very small in size. And so that spherical structure to these samples of limestone, that's how you know you are dealing with ooids and an oolite or an oolitic limestone. Now, another interesting rock is fossiliferous limestone. I'm very interested to know what fossils you have within your sample of fossiliferous limestone. But you will most likely have some sort of marine organisms, so some seashells or perhaps fragments of corals. So you'll have to take a close look and feel free to let me know or send me pictures of your sample and we can possibly determine what type of fossils are found in your sample for number 55. Now here's another sample of fossiliferous limestone. This one is made with fossils of clams, little tiny clams, also known as bivalves. And so you can see the imprints and the shells of the bivalves within this particular sample of limestone. And so that is just another example of fossil limestone. Now, most of the time, as we have seen, the chalk is made from something that used to be alive. The coquina is made from something that used to be alive. The fossil limestone, of course, was made from something that was once alive. So biological activity usually occurs with the presence of limestone, but not always. So travertine is a great example of a limestone that forms completely without the help of anything that is living. Travertine can form in hot springs, and that's usually where we see it forming, in and around hot springs. So you could go to places like Yellowstone and see it forming. There are some great hot springs in Italy that produce travertine. You can also find travertine forming within stalactites and stalagmites in caves. So this is just an example of that crystalline limestone that you would likely find in a cave setting. So here's an example of a larger chunk of limestone. This is from the top of the Grand Canyon. This is the Kaibab limestone. I picked this up not in the national park, so this is completely legal, but this is an example of the Kaibab limestone that sits at the very top of the Grand Canyon, and we can see it is a rather compact limestone. We do not see any fossils in this particular sample, but this is a great example of limestone. This is what creates that feature we call the bathtub ring around the Grand Canyon. Now finally, an example of a rock, a chemical sedimentary rock that we do not have in our rock and mineral kit is chert. Now chert, as we know from being here in Mississippi, chert is the material that we can find in arrowheads and spearheads in our area that were created by the Native Americans. And so this is the material that they use to create those arrows and spearheads for hunting.